The next segment, we want to cover the different medications and some of the side effects of the medications. So essentially, I'm going to try to cover the medications in broad buckets and then talk about some of the side effects. Broadly speaking, the key medicine that really impacts how you're feeling post-transplant is prednisone, which is the medication to lower the immune system. And the reason for lowering the immune system is so that your body doesn't attack the lungs as a foreign object, as if it were a disease. Instead, it makes it easier for your body to look past the fact that the new donor lungs are not your native lungs and instead come from another source. So the broad bucket of medicines is lower the immune system response. The next set of medicines is to help with reducing the likelihood of rejection. So they're anti-rejection medicines. Then if you move into the next bucket of medicines, you've got antimicrobial or antibiotic and antifungal medicines. And then you move into some of the kind of lesser medicines to round out a variety of different things and different vitamins and supplements. What I really want to focus on, though, are and I didn't mention it now, but the pain medicines, which are only for a temporary period of time. So what I'm going to focus on are your medicines that tend to be your lower the immune system and anti-rejection and your pain medicines, because those are the ones that have the main side effects. The side effects that I particularly have noticed that I think are relatively common are a heightened level of anxiety, quote, irritability, and then a high level of shakiness, physical shakes, if you will. Hand shaking is the main way that people kind of see this and feel this, but the shakiness can kind of go much beyond your hands to your entire body can feel shaky. So, when you're feeling anxious and your body is shaking, it's not an especially comfortable feeling, as you can imagine. And the key thing is that this is likely to be worse right when you kind of are through the transplant operation, and that over time, meaning like over 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, you will incrementally feel less of the side effects. Partly because your body gets used to the medications, and partly because you're normally able to decrease your dosage levels over time if you're doing well and you're not having rejection issues. So, in terms of the side effects and what can be done about it, I can't share a lot. I think everybody's different. What I've found is that exercise helps a lot, especially with the anxiety and the irritability. It's just a lot easier to work it off and walk it off, if you will, and get rid of some of that. It's like too much caffeine. If you've had too much caffeine, you're not going to get rid of it right away, but exercise will likely help get rid of it faster. And I find that the exercise helps me sleep better rather than feeling anxious. Get a good day's exercise in, it's easier to go to sleep at night. So got to be conscious of the anxiety and realize that you're not always going to be the best company because you're likely to be irritable. Acknowledge it. If you're in an argument with one of your care providers, realize it's probably you and not them. If you forget something or remember something incorrectly, it's probably you and not them. Just try to remember that it's the medicine. And when I say it's you or not them, maybe it's the medicine and it's not you or them. But it's just going to be a challenge for most people, more for some than others. Doesn't do a whole lot of good to dwell on whether you're one of the more or the less. You're likely to experience a lot more of it than you wanted to or expected to. So I think expecting it and understanding that it's likely to be an issue is 9/10 of the battle. And then the other 10th is just trying to acknowledge as quickly as you're able to when it is impacting you. And I think if everybody understands that and acknowledges it, both the person getting the transplant and the care providers and guests, it makes it much easier to work through it. The next thing I want to talk about from a medication perspective are the pain medications. One of the things I learned through this process is that the objective is to provide only enough pain medicine to make the pain manageable. No one wants the patient to be in too much pain. That's not the objective. But the flip side to it is that too much pain medicine can create shallow breathing, which can hinder the recovery significantly, and it can create constipation. And the constipation can be a real issue, a very real significant issue with the recovery. So the objective is to not provide more pain medication than necessary, only just as much as necessary. I think most people know this, but the other thing is that the pain medications involved are narcotics or synthetic opiates and can be very habit forming. And the objective is to get off any habit forming pain medication as quickly as possible for that reason as well. So what I can share is in my personal experience, I heard all of this advice, I took it to heart, and I, after I was discharged, was very aggressive in trying to reduce the levels of pain medication that I was taking. I got to where I was feeling the chills. I was feeling quite badly. I called it in. I have a 24-hour number that I have available. Got to the point where it was the weekend. It felt like it was right to call it in. I did. The guidance and feedback that I received was to slow down on trying to get off the pain medicine, take it more gradually, ramp down more slowly, continue the idea of ramping down, but just not to pursue it quite as aggressively. And I did that, and ultimately, following that approach, had no problem at all getting off the narcotic which I was taking for pain, and then subsequently have been ramping down the synthetic opiate that I was taking, and I'm still taking a very small amount. And that second medication was more for inflammation, but same concept applies, and feeling really good about how that trajectory is going. But I think one of the key things is trying to reach that right balance, but not going too aggressively on getting off the pain medicine, because that can also be a challenge and create some ugly side effects and not make you feel well. So the other thing I would want to relate is, trying to balance the use of the pain medicine over the course of the day. So I think for myself and others that I speak to, the main focus is how do you time your pain medication so that you can get to sleep at night. If you can't sleep, first of all, anyone who can't sleep is going to be really uncomfortable and not a happy person. But you're not going to heal well. You're not going to have a good recovery if you can't get your sleep. So really a lot of focus is on how do you get sleep, and get through the challenges associated with sleeping with a large incision that's painful. And I mentioned in the earlier segment, try to get used to back sleeping before the operation if you can. It'll help you a lot. But if you can't and you have to work through it post-operation, just understand that you're going to be working through that at the same time as everything else. If you are trying to time your medication, try to time it so that it peaks right as you're going to sleep, is my recommendation. And then have a system set up whereby you can take your subsequent medication. What I found worked fine was that I had a way to check the time very easily, and I could ask for my care provider to come in with my medication as necessary, following the schedule, and then ultimately evolved to whereas I was able to self-administer my pain medication. I could wake up, check the time against when I was allowed to take it, write down when I took my pain medication, and then go back to sleep without having to wake up my care provider. And when to make that change, I'd say, is a matter of judgment, but better to be conservative in all these things until you're really very confident that you can manage these things, and rely on the care provider as you need to. The way that pain medicine over the night would work is, it would, we try to time it to get maximum relief at the point to go to sleep. Once asleep, things would tend to go well for a while until you wake up sore and stiff, and you'd have to try to turn or adjust in the bed. Hopefully you were at the interval where you could take some more pain medicine. If not, you've just got to try to get through until you're able to take that pain medicine again. Then over the course of the day, I think what I found was that the general cycle was, you wake up, you're kind of sore. In the middle of the day, things tend to be feeling really good. Late in the day, as the day progresses and it gets to like 3, 4, 5, 6, it becomes incrementally more painful, not feeling as good. And as you get closer to bedtime, that's probably the more challenging part. You're doing your nebulizer treatments again, so you're kind of going to be sitting down for a while, and then you try to time your pain medicine to kick in right before you go to sleep. So that's kind of the routine. I'm sure you'll experiment with it and find some differences. Once again, everybody's different, but try to think about with the pain medicine, do you take it all at once, or do you take half the dosage twice as often? Those kinds of things that you can work with your specialists, your doctors, your nurses on in terms of coming up with a schedule that works.